Welcome to On Target Radio, Segment 6, where just because a show ends doesn't mean the conversation stops. Now here's your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to Segment 6. Today we're going to be talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We have Don Moran with us, who was on the radio show, president of the Illinois State Rifle Association. This is probably one of the most controversial things that has come along in a long time. People are accusing of Ben running Congress. The question is, when you look at the list of countries that's involved here, the United States, Canada, Japan, Mexico, Australia, Brunei, there's a powerhouse, Chile, Malaysia, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Vietnam. Vietnam has really become the place now. A lot of money's been pumped into Vietnam. These nations have a total population of over 800 million people and the GDP of approximately $28 trillion. So this is like a big deal. The question is, who's benefiting from it? It doesn't appear like we are.
Have we ever benefited from a trade agreement in recent?
Probably not. In theory, these are good things because it's supposed to go both ways. However, what did I read in this article? The deficit.
The jobs usually just leave.
Yeah. It says the year before NAFTA, you were talking about NAFTA before we went on. The year before NAFTA was approved, the United States actually had a trade surplus with Mexico, and our trade deficit with Canada was $29.6 billion. And then 1 year after that, the U.S. had a combined trade deficit with Mexico and Canada of $177 billion after the implementation of NAFTA, which, if you will recall back then, was going to save us, right? That was going to be the big...
It's supposed to be a great thing.
Yeah.
But if you remember, what happened right after NAFTA was a lot of our jobs went to Mexico.
Exactly.
Building cars and appliances and making light bulbs.
Then Mexico became not cheap enough, and then those jobs left Mexico and went to China.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
In the end, the theory
Which is why we need a new agreement.
Huh?
Which is why we need a new
Because China.
Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Exactly, that's
Right.
what needs to do it.
TPP.
You're exactly right. One of the things we know is this will suck jobs out of the U.S. Now, I just want to say...
We just can't get off Ross Road tonight, Gabby.
No, I
You hear that sucking sound?
I love that line.
I forgot
You
about
hear that sucking sound? That's the jobs leaving this country.
I forgot about that.
Here's an interesting number, though. About 102 million Americans, working-age Americans, are unemployed in the country right now. And if we sign, which arguably is a very big agreement, we're talking about a lot of money here, that number's going to increase.
Yeah, this is, what it says here is very interesting. If you think that the trade deficit doesn't matter, this proves that it does. For every $1 billion of goods in trade deficit, we lose 9,000 jobs.
That's interesting.
That's a huge, huge number.
We're talking about multiple billions of dollars.
It says there's a professor that's estimated that cutting our trade deficit in half would create 5 million jobs. So that's like 1/20th of what we need to get our people working.
And you were harping about trade deficits are so bad.
Trade deficits are big,
I'm a
big
fan
deal.
of protectionism.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
To a certain degree, at least to the point where if there's going to be a trade agreement, then all of the economic and environmental things need to be the same on both sides. And there needs to be a realistic enforcement mechanism that it works and has penalties.
yeah. That's really, you hit the nail on the head, because we have this, savioristic, this narcissistic savior attitude about we're America, so we have to do this, we have to do that. You can't compete with a country like China. You ever been to China?
Right. They manipulate their own currency, and they dump surplus materials into
Right.
our economy. You know, that's not
Well,
just
you
to
have
have
to do
just to
it.
have
they
an
have
agreement
no
to legitimize
environmental
that
standards,
isn't a
they have
good
no
thing.
labor standards, and they have no moral standards. They put poisonous substances in pet food and toothpaste that they sell to us. So yeah, I have a big problem with letting China just dump whatever into our market. I have a
Steal.
huge problem with that.
Have you ever been to China?
No, thank you.
You get up in the morning, well, I find it interesting, you know, I covered Asia for the magazine. You get up in the morning in Beijing. If you think LA is bad, you step out of the hotel, it's like fog. I mean, it's astounding. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
they're horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's small.
Well, yeah.
It's
It's
I
a
don't know,
combination of
you remember
smoking.
when the Joy at Arsenal ran up until the early 70s, when it closed?
No, I was, see, I wouldn't
In
hear
the- In the
it.
late 60s, the Joy at Arsenal would operate, and in the morning, you would have the same thing in the Kankakee River Valley. You would have this yellow fog that would just sit down on the highway, and there'd be chain reaction accidents sometimes on the interstate.
And this was emissions from the
This
arsenal?
was emissions from the Arsenal and Joliet. And our environmental standards in this country, we've cleaned that stuff up. You know, but in some of these countries like China, that they haven't done that, they
No.
haven't taken those steps. So how can our manufacturers be competitive on a par with their people when they don't have to meet the same standards?
And that's exactly the problem. Because when we talk about trade deals, we always talk about in the ideal, well, they're gonna make baskets, and we're gonna buy their baskets, but in return, we're gonna sell them, whatever, lamps. But it doesn't end up working that way. Because I've been in, and particularly in Vietnam, Thailand, I've been in factories. I'll give you, Indonesia is a good example, and you've probably seen in my house, I have those framed batik
Gretchen was in your house?
once, and she threw up and ran out screaming. But I've got framed batik, and this is hand-done stuff, not, you know, printed. I went in the factory and I saw them do it, and literally, you have a woman, they're dark, dingy, you have a woman who's squatting in a factory, and batik is cloth with paint, but it's ink, it's hot ink. So what they do, literally, is they do a drawing of whatever it is, pencil drawing, and this part is red, this part is green, so on. So, today we're gonna do red. They take hot wax, this is on their lap, bare-legged, and they lay it out, and they put hot wax in every part of that, except where the red's gonna be. And then they dip it in hot red dye, and lay it back on their legs, and they fan it to cool it. Once it dries, the ink dries, then they take it and they put it in like boiling water, they get the wax to melt out, they put it back on their lap with their naked legs, and now they pick another color. You see where this is going. And you look at their legs, they're just burned senseless.
So we're like the ladies that licked the brushes before they painted the nuclear paint onto the watching.
Right here, that was here.
In Ottawa.
Yeah, in Ottawa,
And they all died
exactly.
of cancer.
Exactly, that's exactly right. They were during the war, during the Second World War. So I buy this, and it's beautiful stuff. I mean, they make beautiful stuff, but I buy this, it's frameable quality. But every time I look at it, I see this poor woman, and who knows what they're paying her? Basically nothing, I'm sure. And with the burned legs and stuff.
$30 a month.
Well,
They
and
probably should
that's the
let-
thing, yeah, they, like I was saying about labor standards, they can make them work for any number of hours per day, for any wage.
In
that-
any age.
Whatever the prevailing wage is, which is pennies. And yeah, I mean, you know, 7 years old, 5 years old in some cases, I mean, there's no age standards, it's deplorable.
Insert gratuitous plug for China Inc., the book.
It's a book.
It's a book, and it describes, you know, the modernization, industrialization of China, and how they built factories and built highways, for instance, and how they take people off the farm and they utilize them during the prime of their life, and then they send them back to the farm. Once they're too
Yeah.
old to be as productive as they want them to be, they send them back. And there's no safety net for them if they're dumped back in their family, you know.
Right.
This person's used
Yeah.
up, we don't need them anymore, you can have them back.
Mhm.
But it's a mistake to underestimate the Chinese. The Japanese, when their cost of living got to be so high, when they were paying so much money in salary, moved factories, high-tech factories to China, because they could get cheaper labor.
China's had a great deal of wage inflation also.
Sure, but what happened though, is when they moved it back to Japan, the Chinese knew what they were doing, and they started making knockoff stuff
Oh, sure.
using Japanese technology. They're not stupid people.
And companies in this country send their employees to China to teach them how to make their product,
Exactly.
so they can work themselves out of a job.
And this always reminds me, the parallel is what were, for instance, the Italians thinking during Second World War, when they were aligning themselves with somebody who was going to kill them if they won. And it's like the Japanese. Anyone that was an ally of the Japanese, they were, they believed in supremacy. You were a white dog. If you aligned with them, after they won the war, you'd be. What are people thinking when they do that? Oh, it'll be okay. It's like giving these radical Muslims, well, if we just appease them. No, they're going to come through and kill everybody. What's so hard to understand about that?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this is, they point out that basically, Detroit used to be prosperous. It used to be an American example of, prosperity. We had factories producing wonderful automobiles and other things, and what happened? Those jobs went away. That's always the first thing. And so, yeah, I mean, this is you called it the end of the American dream, and that's exactly what it is. It's terrible. I mean, I think that there's a confluence of a lot of events. Obamacare is one of them. It made it, for me and people a little bit younger than me, it made it very difficult to find a full-time job because there's not that many companies creating jobs. They're willing to pay for that for that insurance.
And you got to look back. It used to be common that you would take a job with a company and you were with them for 20, 30 years, you retired. They took care of you. You had a pension plan, they took care of you. That, not everything that exists anymore, does it?
Not much.
Companies struggle with that too. They struggle with that turnaround. And I think as the economy starts to heat back up, you may see some of that stuff coming back. Defined benefit plans or defined contribution plans at the very least. I think you're going to see a lot of that coming back because companies are going to try and retain the best of the people that they get. They can't sustain themselves either with this, people come in and they come there to work for 6 months a year. As soon as they learn everything they need to know from that company, they leave and go market themselves to somebody else. The company
needs more money.
The company needs some institutional knowledge. They need people to stay there. And one way that they're going to get there is they're going to have to start increasing wages and they're going to have to start bringing benefits back into the workforce.
Yes.
Well, I hope that's true because, I mean, at this point, I'm working 3 part-time jobs. One of them does offer benefits, but until last year, I didn't. I mean, I had no health care. And so, I mean, I think that Obamacare, for all the promises, really was highly destructive of the job market.
People in their younger 20s generally don't have any health issues.
The thing about
I'll pay you later.
the thing about that is I'm semi-retired, so I collect Social Security, and then I still write for the magazine. I just don't travel, so I get a fixed amount every month to do that. And I'm watching my 401k every time I get the sheet, it's gone down another couple $1,000 every darn month for the past couple of years. I get it in, I've lost another $1,000 this month. I mean, it's just this slow, never-ending downward creep. And it's like really getting scary because I'm getting to the point where I couldn't live on Social Security and my 401k anymore by themselves. If there isn't a turnaround, I'm going to have a big problem. And lots of people who save money are in this position now.
I know a lot of people, we talk to financial advisors, the rest of these people are, they all said the crash of the market in 2008, it's just a paper loss, to worry about it. As long as you stay in the market, you're in good shape. Then you take people that are retired, they're on a fixed income, they're living off the return on investment of their 401k, and they're trying to live on the return or spend less than 3% of it per year to try and to live on. Well, if they lose 30% of their 401k in a market crash like that,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal for them because now not only are they not getting the interest back out of this thing or they're not getting the return on investment out of it, but they've also had to reduce the number in their principal to the point where they're never going to get back to that number. They're never going to be able to make that money back.
Well, it's too late for those people, but
it's
just
not a paper loss for them.
A word of advice for anyone who's anywhere close to retirement. The closer you get to retirement, the less risk you're supposed to take. So as
right.
you know,
Well, yeah,
as
the
you
crash
get
of
closer,
2008 left no survivors.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
I'm saying if your investments were structured properly throughout your life, in your 20s you can take more risk, in your 30s you pull
Okay.
back and you continue to do that.
But if the market crash is big enough,
It all goes down.
2008, the entire economy crashed. It didn't make any difference where you were at, although there were ways to invest.
There's some
If
things
if
that,
you were paying attention, you saw it coming,
Right.
you know, but the banks got in trouble, I think, because they wrote bad paper, but also because they were afraid to get out before they made that last penny.
yeah, they were milking it as much as they could.
Everybody knew it was
Yeah.
coming. They
But-
just didn't know when it was coming and how bad it was gonna be.
My 401k, when was it, 2006? When did it start to tank?
7.
It started,
Seven,
the
okay.
fall of 2007, the construction industry
Collapsed.
across the country
Yeah.
collapsed.
So I had a 401k. In the space of 1 year, it halved, literally. I lost 50% of my money in 1 year. That's 2007 roughly. It's just now back to where it was
Right.
back then. It's taken that long. Now, if we're gonna hit the skids again, well, the upside is I'm old, so I can take a bigger chunk, because I'm not gonna live that long, okay? That's the upside. I have to wait till I'm 100 to
Or so
retire.
you hope,
Huh?
that you don't have to live very long.
Isn't it the end of the show yet? I think we're over.
I think it is.
I think this is done. Are we about done? I think we're done. We start picking on
Because
it.
what if you live to 105?
The other thing too, that people don't realize, like, you have to have a mix of stocks and bonds, because those two markets tend
They
to
offset.
counterbalance each
Yeah.
other. And then also it helps to have diversification with maybe some commodities like gold, silver, things like that. That tends to balance out when inflation, when you have bad inflation, gold goes up, things like that. So there's ways to diversify your portfolio to
The thing you gotta remember
help with that.
is playing in the market is like playing poker. The house always wins.
Mhm.
I've told you this before, but back in the 90s sometime, remember when everyone was day trading? That was the fashion, every day trade. So I'm day trading.
Is that only in the 90s?
I think it was 90s.
Yeah, I think it
It
was.
was, because I was traveling then.
I was a babe.
So I had, on the bottom of my computer screen, I had a little window, and it was running numbers. And I was buying like penny stocks. I paid, a couple bucks for a stock, and I'd watch it, and when it got up 20%, I'd sell it. And then I'd wait, so I'm doing that. So I
What'd you do
started,
with the money that you made when you sold it?
huh?
What'd you do with
You
the
bought
money you
something
made
else.
when you sold it?
Turned right around, churned it, and bought more at a low.
Oh.
I was buying low, right, so, and I was doing okay. I think I had, what did I say, 5,000 bucks to go into it, I think? I think I had like 5,000 bucks when I started. I got up to about 55, almost 60,000 bucks. And then I got an assignment to go to Hong Kong for a week. Now, I'm thinking, okay, I got it invested, it'll sit for a week. I lost almost every dime of it. By the time I got home, it was all gone. And to this day, I lost $55,000 in the market, which of course I really didn't, because I only started out with 5. But when you've got it on paper, that's my money, poof, it's gone. It's like playing poker. The house wins. Sometimes you win, but the house always wins. So, this whole trade thing, I don't know. We didn't solve it though, did we? He's gonna do it anyway.
You say that every week. Nothing
You
really
need
solved.
you need a new like wrap up line.
Yeah.
We need something we can solve.
We should have David run for president.
Okay.
Run where?
He could fix the universe.
In the opposite direction?
President of
Yeah.
what?
Good luck. That pithy word was from the president of the Illinois State Rifle Association, Don Moran. Next week on segment 6, we will be doing the most interesting subject that we can think of this week.
That's right.
Is that fair enough?
On Friday.
That's exactly what
That's
it is.
right.
Yeah.
We should know probably by around Friday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.